Greetings. Good morning, or at least it's morning here at the time of this recording of this installment of the Dirty Shoes podcast. I hope you're well. I hope your family's well. I hope things are going well for you this morning. I am Chris, your fellow sojourner on this proverbial journey of life where we get to share some stories and some insights. This morning's going to be a little bit different for me. I think I'm going to call it a reset episode. At least it's a reset for me. I don't think I've ever taken the real opportunity to share with you where Dirty Shoes comes from and what this podcast is all about. And if I haven't done that effectively, then I apologize for that. I think the thing that's motivated me to do this segment, to do this particular recording, have you ever had a call to do something and you set out to do it and you know you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing? But then when people start to find out about it, you get all weird about it. You get weird and you sound all apologetic about it. And I feel like I've been doing that lately. And I really felt a sort of conviction in my heart to just reset. I'm going to share a little bit more about my motivation for that here in a moment. But I don't think I have been communicating well why I'm doing this and what it stands for, and the fact that I am very proud to be doing this. I am very proud to be able to do my best to add value to you. So I told you in our installment called Do It Now to avoid false humility. And I feel like I've been guilty a little bit of that. So for anyone who's asked me about Dirty Shoes, I apologize to you for that. So with that said, let me share with you real quick where this came from. I went on vacation with my wife. We saved up and went to Hawaii. Now, not knowing really much about Hawaii, I didn't really expect what happened while we were there. We got on the ground. I rented a vehicle. I'll never forget. It all started once we touched down. We went to the rental car place, and I had rented a car because I wanted to be able to get around. I always like to be able to have as much, mobility as I can. I'm one of those when in Rome kind of people. So we're doing the rental car checkout, and the person at the counter asks, well, what's your vacation going to look like? And I knew I had downloaded one of those self-guided tour apps, which turned out to be awesome, turned out to be incredible. So I knew based on what I had downloaded, we'd probably be getting around the island quite a bit. And she says this, she says, well, our policy is if you plan on doing any kind of going to any beaches or anything, our recommendation is that you get a 4-wheel drive. Now, no one had ever said that to me in a rental car counter before. So I said, well, I don't want any limits, and it wasn't going to be that much more money per day for me to go from the standard vehicle we had rented to a 4-wheel drive. Got the 4-wheel drive, and it was the best decision we could have made. We experienced some things on that vacation as city slickers, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, that we never thought imaginable. We were really stretched, and we got some really extraordinary pictures. It was an incredible experience, but I'll never forget, during the course of that week, we get back from one of our outings going around the island for that day, and I'm sitting there in our hotel room, and my eyes are just arrested. I'm looking at my sneakers. Matter of fact, I'm wearing those sneakers right now. I'm looking at my sneakers, and they are filled with dust. I mean, they're just dirty from all the, we had, hiked and explored, really gotten stretched. And as I'm looking at my sneakers, something was like, you're going to communicate with people. You're going to start a podcast, and you're going to talk to people about exploring life to its fullest. about leaving it on the table and living a rich, full life. You're going to reach out to old friends, people that I've brought to you along the way, and you're going to talk to them about where they are in life. And all of a sudden, this flood of people, whether it's old classmates, old Navy buddies, specific people started coming into my mind's eye. And you're going to talk to them about where they are in life, because you are at an age now where the light bulb has kind of come on, and there's some stories you can tell that can add value to people. More on that in a second. So I get this download, and I was even given the name Dirty Shoes, because I'm sitting there in this hotel room looking at my dirty shoes after an extraordinary day of experiencing things I'd never experienced before. We get home, and the idea is still resonating with me to the point where I can't sleep at night. I could get no rest, no peace, because at the end of the day, I don't know the first thing about podcasting, or I don't know the first thing about, I guess, influencing, if that's the word you want to use for this. And I knew I'm a very busy guy. I've got a lot to do. Do I even have time? Was that me just being emotional? Is it a midlife crisis? What is this? But I knew in my bones this was a God-given directive for me to do exactly what I'm doing right now. And finally, after weeks, really weeks of struggling, getting awakened in the middle of the night, knowing no peace, I finally surrendered to it. And here I am, taking it one episode at a time, doing what I can to add value to you. But, and that's the reason for this particular installment, when it got to the point where people found out, I was courageous enough to put it on YouTube. I was courageous enough to do a clip or a reel on Facebook. And now friends and church members and colleagues know that I'm here. When people ask me about it, I was very mealy-mouthed and very apologetic about it. Which brings me to my second point for this installment. I am put on this earth to add value to people. And shout out to John Maxwell and John Maxwell Leadership. I was smart enough to get some equipping through them maybe 3 years ago. And they would always say, to this day, they're always talking about adding value to people. And that didn't click. It took 3 years for that to click. Sorry, guys. It really is about adding value to people. And what does that mean? What does that mean as far as Dirty Shoes is concerned? Every conversation that I have, I had a great conversation in my last installment. We had to break it into 2 segments with a great gentleman that was brought into my life, and he's a minister now, and he's used a skill set that he has to not only minister to people, but to encourage other folks and to really share his gift and add value to people outside this, I want to say the scope of ministry. And we had a great conversation. And one of the, I guess, motivations behind Dirty Shoes is, listen, people are brought into your life for a reason. There are people in your life right now where you should treasure this season with them. And you should really engage in meaningful conversations with them. They can really, you'll discover how much they're pouring into you and how much they're pouring into others. Anything that you get, whether it's online in any kind of capacity, should make you better at the end of it. Should help you see your worth and your value, and should maybe help you identify some areas where you can grow. I know that's what's happening with me. So the reason behind Dirty Shoes, I really feel like, this is what God has me doing, is to add value to others. I really believe that this should serve as just one alternative, one tiny alternative to encourage you in your day, to make you recognize the value of some of the relationships you have, to encourage you to take little leaps of faith, to not be bogged down or stagnated in life, and to live life to its full. What does Dirty Shoes stand for? Why? What are its core values? Because I think anything you do, you should have principles behind it. Anyone who knows me, anyone who has any familiarity with Chris, if you ask them in one word, give me one word that describes Chris, there's no doubt in my mind they would say servanthood. I am put on this earth to serve others. So Dirty Shoes will reflect my character, and that is to serve you. Serve you by adding value to you for your day. Serve you by encouraging you again to not take life or relationships for granted. Serving you by encouraging you to stretch yourself in the kind of relationships you have, the places that you'll explore. Never be stagnated. So Dirty Shoes will reflect the individual that I am, and that's to serve. There's 4 things you'll always hear from me, basically in a nutshell, that I'll try to encourage you. Number 1 is to persevere. Never quit for any reason. When you are doing exactly what you are put on this earth to do, when you are exactly where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing, there's going to be challenges. There's going to be obstacles. There's going to be opportunities to grow and be stretched. Persevere. Never, ever quit. Never give up. There's a word, and this is the second one that I'll encourage you with. And this is for anyone desiring leadership. I have been a student of leadership really all my life, from the time I could start working as a teenager. There's a word or a characteristic of leadership that you seldom hear. That word is loyalty. I think, at least in my opinion, there's a bit of a gun for hire mentality where there is a self-centeredness, a self-serving, me-centric, narcissistic attitude. And I think the one thing I've learned about leadership is true leadership is a small circle, friend. If you are looking to elevate, to be promoted, you have to understand that leadership, that circle gets tighter and tighter. And the key element for cohesion, the key element for promotion is whether you'll remain loyal or whether you'll abandon the mission at the first sign of trouble, at the first sign of opposition, at the first sign of disagreement. You must be able to exercise loyalty to your team, because that's how you build trust. The third thing I'm going to encourage you with, which is an element, a pillar of the person I am, is optimism. Having a great attitude. There's an individual I went to school with. I'm hoping to be able to speak with her one day. She was always just the picture of optimism. When we were in college, in our ROTC unit, we had a very, very strong ROTC unit because they were preparing us for going into the military, whether it was the Navy or the Marine Corps, to prepare us for the leadership challenges ahead. And I'll never forget, we'd be out there in Louisiana rain. Now, if you've never been in Louisiana rain, You have not been in rain. It's like the rain came up from the ground. But we'd be out there, unless it was lightning, we'd be out there doing calisthenics, and 6 o'clock in the morning, you're barely awake. But she was always, always the picture of optimism. Had a smile that could light up a room. And her enthusiasm was so infectious. It can make all the difference when you are trying to make an impact and influence others, which I'm hoping you'll do each day after you listen to this podcast. The last thing I'll encourage you with every time, as much as possible, is to have passion and a vision. Pursue something beyond yourself. That is what makes life so fulfilling. When you have a vision for your home, I think about it with my wife all the time. There is an atmosphere with me and my wife right now because there's vision being laid out for us at this point in our lives. And we're as optimistic today as we've ever been. I was sharing with my wife, this is the best Chris I have ever been. At my age, in my early 50s now, I am the best me I have ever been. Excuse me. So have a vision. Have a vision. It is the thing that'll get your feet on the floor every morning. It is the thing that will cause you not to waste time. Vision and passion, another thing that's just infectious. It's absolutely infectious. So what are our takeaways? And then I'll wrap up. What are our takeaways for today? The thing that I have been learning and I've been dealing with over the last couple of weeks as this sort of conviction has rested in my heart about, hey man, when people ask, you should tell them with a smile on your face, yeah, Dirty Shoes is here. This is what I was called to do. I didn't look for it, but it found me. And I'm grateful for it. I am so grateful for it. Number one, don't forget, remember this, do it now. Whatever it is you know in your heart you're supposed to be doing, do it now. Do it right now. Number two, apologize for nothing. Remember this, if you don't value the call on your life, no one else will. You know what you've been called to do this morning. You know what's keeping you up at night. And it's not just the stresses and pressures of job and family and finances. It's this thing that's rattling in your bones that you know you got to do or you know you got to finish. Value it, treasure it, and get it done. Because again, if you don't value the call on your life, no one else will. Cherish great relationships. Cherish great relationships. I have, again, been very blessed, very fortunate to have come across some people in my life that just made me better and were willing to tell me the truth. Embrace every moment of every day. This means check your attitude. Check your attitude. You must have a great attitude for you and for others. Value others. I was watching a portion. It was so unfortunate. I wasn't even able to finish it. And I'm not going to dwell on this long. but it was a young African American young lady, and she was sharing online. I guess there was this workplace assignment where they had to split into teams, and maybe she was able to select her team members, and she indicated that she selected a specific group of people that she said, I guess in her words, looked like her because that was the only way she felt safe. That attitude is unfortunate, friend. It's so unfortunate. So many of the people that have poured the most into me, so many of the people that have helped make me the individual I am today didn't look like me. They didn't look like me. They are some of the most beautiful, wonderful people. You will miss so much by restricting your contacts because you don't value other people for whatever reason. And that's not just about color of skin. It has to do with culture. I was born and raised in the South, so when I was shipped off to the West Coast as a young man, it was a whole new culture. It was an entirely new culture, and it enriched me. It enriched me to have those experiences. Never stop learning. Be teachable. Be correctable. That's the only way you grow. That is sort of the mission of this podcast, is to encourage you in those areas. Never stop learning. If you happen to have stumbled across my segment on contentment, I said that contentment reads. The contented person reads. Now, why do I say the contented person reads? Because the contented person is humble enough to know that they don't have all the answers. The contented person knows that I don't know everything, and I want to grow. I want to get better. I want to maximize me, who I am, my gifts, my talents, my resources. I want to be the best me that I can, but I recognize that I don't have all the answers, and I'm curious about life. So I read so that I can grow. Never stop learning. Be teachable. And that's for a young person who may have stumbled across this broadcast. Never stop learning. That's all I have for today. I'll simply share this, the same thing I share every time. Listen, remember this. Life is short, but there's still plenty of it to be lived. I'd still love to hear your stories. If this resonated with you, when you see me on YouTube, I'll try to put this on YouTube. Give me a shout out in the comments. Let me know what you think. Or shoot me an email, dirtyshoes02@gmail.com. Maybe you have a vacation story that changed your life, or some sort of experience that opened up your whole worldview. I'd love to hear it. I'd love to maybe share it with you one day, the way I did with my buddy Brandon. God bless you today. Make it a great one. Take care.